I work with organizational leaders when they're driving important change and initiatives. Now, I'm sure all of you have been around initiatives or change, and you recognize that if change is a part of the mix, there's some wonky behavior that happens. Would you agree? Workplace dynamics get a little bit unusual. Well, when they share the dynamics of their situation, and I have an understanding of what they're talking about, I ask them, what do you want? I mean, really, what do you want to have happen here? People are very clear about what they don't want. In certain situations, it seems to bring that out. They're really clear about what they don't want to have happen, and not nearly as clear about what they do. Now, I was working with a client not so long ago, and the client had a situation that was just, not going the way that they wanted it to go. Sue was telling me about the relationship with Bob. And Bob was doing everything wrong. She didn't appreciate anything that he brought to the table. A couple things became immediately obvious. They had very different temperaments. Sue was a get the job done kind of gal, and Bob was a do it accurately kind of guy. I asked her, Sue, tell me, what is your sense, what is your understanding of Bob, and what does he think of your relationship? And she said, oh, he has no idea I feel these things whatsoever, none. What do you think? Do you think that Bob had a sense of that? Do you think he had an understanding that she really didn't appreciate him? She was focused intensely on what she didn't want. And I've worked with hundreds of clients, and I'm here to tell you that it's getting in the way of positive relationships. I was on a flight recently with an individual that sat next to me and had viewed seeing red cars in this conference that he'd been at. And he said, I like it. It's, it's a general philosophy for life. I get it, and that's great, but I don't get how it would actually get in the way of relationships. It just doesn't really make sense to me. Here's the example that he was referring to.
Okay, one more example to make the point. One of your coworkers is really getting on your nerves. To make it worse, you keep running into this person in every meeting, in the hallway, at lunch, in the parking lot. You can't escape. Who's putting all those thoughts of red cars, don't go in the water, and I can't get away from this person into your head? You are, of course. It's what you're focused on. And remember what I said, whether good or bad, you always get more of what you focus on.
Let's put that into play. I want you to look around the room and look for everything that you can see that is green. Small, large, doesn't matter. Everything that you can see inside and out. Even consider the green that you may remember seeing when you walked in today. Quick gander, looking around. Now, front and center with me. What is red in this room? Balls. Okay. What else? Once again? Michelle's shirt. What else is red? Okay. Okay, now on to green. What's green? What else? All right. All right. Open your eyes. You got a laundry list of green, right? Because that's what you were focused on. So bring this into the workplace. You're absolutely intently focused on the green, what you don't want. And you're noticing it, and you're remembering it. But what if the red is actually the behaviors that you want to see, that you want to have more around you? Could it be that by focusing so intently on what you don't want, that you're actually missing the signs and signals that people are doing the right thing? Now, I was working with a client not long ago, and he was driving a really important change process. He was preparing for something that was really important, and all eyes were on him. Not just similar to your preparations for important events, where people are really going to be watching to see if you can do things well. Well, his process wasn't going well, and he asked if I could give him some help with it. So we looked over things. We made a decision that I would shadow him for a day and see if we could sort it out. So shadowing, I just went with him. I walked with him down the hall. I was there when he had one-on-one conversation with his folks. Small meetings, large meetings. It became immediately apparent. He'd spent a lot of time focusing on what he didn't want to have happen. He was very clear about that, and he opened every interaction with that. We don't want to miss that timeline. We don't want to look like we're uncooperative with this other team. We don't want to go over budget. It's just how he started the conversation. And every time he opened up his conversations with that, I just watched the energy kind of drain out of their faces. And it was just a very simple thing. He was a really passionate person. He was very excited. He was really committed to doing this job well. And he didn't recognize how this small thing was impacting the energy of his people and their willingness to go above and beyond. And it's a great example of where a small shift can make a big difference. And that's exactly what he did. He made this small shift. He started every interaction with, what do you want to accomplish with this? Where are you at right now? And what are the steps you need to take to move things along? And then he had it in his larger group. What's our big picture? Where are we at right now? What are the steps we need to take to move things along? He made a small shift, and a small shift can make a huge difference. So now let's come back to that Bob and Sue example that I shared with you. Let's imagine that dynamic. Sue doesn't appreciate Bob, all right? She's focusing very intently on what she doesn't want to have happen. The natural tendency in that spot for Sue is to give advice, right? She doesn't appreciate him, so she's going to give advice. This is where focusing on what you don't want really kind of cascades into other behavior. Now imagine yourself as Bob. She's giving you advice. What's the likelihood that you're going to take that advice and sort of run with it? What's the likelihood that that advice is going to really lend itself to the relationship? It's low. Would you agree? Very low. So that's that cascading effect. A much more powerful thing to do is to ask powerful questions. What's our job that we're doing here? What are our priorities? What are the strengths you bring to the table? What are the strengths that I bring? What do we do if we run into conflict? What's the best way for us to talk about that? Powerful questions, drawing him in, creating a stronger sense of relationship so that they can together work through the process, that they can manage the challenges that come along the way. Now, really asking open-ended questions lends itself to something very important, and that's being able to listen well, really being a good listener. But it goes beyond listening. It's also about being a keen observer and recognizing when people are giving us signals that they're on track or off track, that they're with us or not, they're scared, they're mad, they're ticked, whatever they might be, really recognizing where they're at. Any parents of teenagers in the room? And one of the things that I didn't imagine, I knew that I was worried about her driving, but what I didn't imagine is that in this corridor between getting the permit and actually getting the license, that little corridor, that I would be worried about my life, right? It didn't even cross my mind that I'd be worrying about my life. But last summer, when my daughter was taking the classroom test, they showed examples. They showed examples of worse drivers. And one of the examples, you know how the squads will have actually the cameras on the front of the car so that they can capture? In this particular situation, the car was driving very slowly, so much the police officer felt that it was a danger. So he put the lights in the grill and the car didn't respond, and he put the siren on and the car didn't respond. He kept trying to, no response, so he calls for a backup. Now we've got 2 squads, lights, sirens. Still no response. 3 squads now. Okay, lights, sirens, gestures, still no response. 4 squads, still no response. The car continues to amble down the road. Not fast, no, but continues to go along. 5 squads. Now the car pulls into the parking lot. All 5 squads surround the car. They're in the parking lot of the nursing home. And out of the car steps Grandma, like this. Oh my. Oh my, you're not here for me, are you? Oh my. See, we get those signals. The lights are on, the sirens are on. People are telling us that we're either on track or off track. They're letting us know, and we're not slowing down. We're not letting them know what we're there for. What do we want in that relationship? What do we want in that interaction? Being intentional about it is critically important, because there's a default in a lot of situations, and the default is focusing on not hitting the ball in the water. That's the default. So be intentional about what you want in each and every interaction. It doesn't take like a big planning and intention. What do I want in this relationship? And if things get off track, you can tap back to that and let them know what I want is for us to work together collaboratively and well, and to share some information, and it looks like something's gotten in the way right now. Talk about it. Whatever you're focusing on, you'll draw more and more of that to you. You get more of whatever you focus on. My hope for you is that seeing red cars serves as a guide, as a message to guide you through your conversations and in those meetings that you have day in and day out. And that it serves kind of like a GPS. In the same way, with a GPS, you've got to put the directions in order for it to get you somewhere. Be intentional about what you want. And it'll serve as a GPS also if there's a trip or a car accident or whatever might happen, that you get there and you deal with that as opposed to forge past it, so that you can create more of what you want in all of your interactions. I'd like to thank you so much for your time.